And I'm very glad to be here to share some information and ideas about my recent country with you. Well, my topic is income distribution, domestic market, and economic growth, the recent Brazilian experience. I will focus on the relation between those variables, and so I would like to start with a brief historical introduction. Brazil is widely known as the land of carnival, football, etc., but it's also, unfortunately, a land of inequalities, distance or differences among people. Obviously, these differences has deep roots of colonial heritage, slavery, concentration of land and wealth. And what I would like to stress here in the first slide is that on last century, through different periods of our history, the engine of the economic dynamic shifted from the external sector. Brazil was a primary exporter, firstly sugar, then gold, and then coffee. But since the 1930s and after the mid of the last century, our domestic market became the dynamic force of our economy. But my point is that this domestic force was not based on the distribution of income. Especially on the military period of Brazil between 1964 and 1985, we could experience high economic growth and structural change, but at the same time, income concentration and wage differentiation. We had, in a word, a socially very unfair but highly dynamic model during almost all the last century. We had also a developmental state, but it was far from welfare state or welfare state. This generated political and intellectual debate among Brazilian economists if the income concentration was an obstacle to economic growth. My answer, historical answer, was it was no. It was possible to grow a lot without a domestic market based on income distribution. Well, but this developmental period ends with the debt crisis of 1980s, stagnation. It was clearly the end of a model and worsening of social conditions. In 1988 Constitution, after the democratization of Brazil, there were at the legal aspects on the Constitution, social rights, improvement in terms of social rights, but finance and difficulties in terms of public policy. In the 1990s, as most of Latin American economics, in Brazil there was a process of Washington consensus reforms that were not particularly worried about social conditions. There were important gains, income gains, with the real plan, that is stabilization program of 1994. But there was an increase in employment as the decade as a whole, increase in employment, low growth, and external crisis. And here were the seeds of the income transfer program, but it was very focused, very small, and no relevant macroeconomic impact. This way, we arrived at the end of 1990s, the early 2000s, shift in the power coalition, and started the Lula period. Well, it was a new Brazilian model after 2002. This is the question. The reasoning of the socially oriented development was part of the Workers' Party, Lula's party, since the 1980s. The ideas of a mass consumption market used to be an important part of left-wing economist agenda from the party and other left-wing economists in Brazil. But the fact is, the first years of development was very frustrating. from this perspective. It's a very orthodox anti-growth, anti-distribution macro-management, especially in monetary policy, and also fiscal and exchange rate. An interesting point of this Brazilian model was that the changes were gradually without any open conflict with the capital or the riches, but slowly some important shifts were made in economic terms and social terms also. This, in a very benign external environment, were very important characteristics of the resumption of growth before the crisis and fast recovery after the fall in 2009. Here I have a graph. Don't pay too much attention to the data after 2011. These were the targets or the hope of finance minister, but just focus on the blue bars that were the resumption after 2003. From an average of 1.7 during the end of the 90s and beginning of the new century to an average of 4. It's not too much compared with China and India, but for our context was a step away. What were the drivers of this growth? The period is not homogeneous in terms of the policy options, but the fact is, and here is the separation of the drivers of the growth, the domestic demand substitutes the external sector very fast, and since 2004 our growth is completely based on domestic demand. What is the point I want to stress about this domestic demand? The reducing inequalities and deepening of mass consumer market in Brazil. We can put 3 or 4 big pillars explaining this growth of the domestic demand. First, social programs. Second, a legal minimum wage, that is a very important distribution tool in Brazil. It was created in 1930s, but it's still a very important tool. And 3, economic growth with consequence in employment. And a 4th pillar would be the expansion of credit. There were some public policies, and especially the use of public banks to extend the credit to people. Here we have some numbers about these transformations in Brazilian society. This is the basic measure of inequality in terms of income concentration, the Gini index. I don't know if it's possible to see. Our level in 1990s was 0.6, probably the worst distribution in the world, probably. And then we have made some progress, important progress, 0.5 in 2011. The last number from 2012 shows that the inequality continues to decrease. But our level is still very, very concentrated income. Here, a measure of the poverty levels, a decrease of 45% between 2003 and 2009. This trend also continues. And here, a calculation that shows that the real income growth was concentrated in 20% of poorest. The poorest part of population had its income much higher growth during this period. Well, showing the instruments, the tools to achieve these results, maybe the most famous one is the main social program called the Bolsa Família. A good translation would be the family benefit, something like that. It's a focused program of income transfers with some requirements in terms of education and health. But I would like to stress this the growing of the program. It now reaches 30 million households in Brazil, and it costs just 0.5% of our GDP. but it reaches a large share of Brazilians, and now it was recently expanded to cover all the people below a minimum level of something like $35 per month. The problem is to reach that people, but all of them identify and reach and pay. But in terms of social technology, this is a very important Brazilian problem. Here is the minimum wage, a 70% in real terms increase in the last 10 years. Here our unemployment rate, this is when you compare it to some European figures, at 5.3. This number is October last year, now it's 5.5, but at this age in Brazil we are on full employment or no, but it's very low level of unemployment. And here the increase in the credit market. Well, the point I would like to stress is that beyond social justice, this is a powerful economic engine. More than 30, more than 40, in fact, million additional people became consumers, and these numbers were increased. This represents a new combination between social and economic features of Brazilian development. In Keynesian macroeconomic terms, the multiplier of our economy was increased. This could be termed wage-led or distributional-led or social justice-led growth. And this strategy was followed by the recent new government of Chile, and that is trying to deepen this focus program. Here just a number of social modification of Brazilian social pyramid. Now 50% of the total population can be classified as middle class. Well, here just an estimation of the total potential market consumption. Well, this story could be told as a case of success in the end of Lula's government. It was Brazilian famous for growth in the middle of the crisis and distribution. Well, in the last 2 years, however, the records are much less brilliant. Very low growth, 2.7 and 0.9 last 2 years, decreasing investment levels, some inflationary pressure, and important regression in the productive structure. The question is, it's the end of the new Brazilian model. In Brazil, among economists, there are strong claims for a shift in the model, mainly in 2 directions. One, the defense of back to a liberal agenda, privatization, open left states. This I would spend some time, much time with them. The second, that is more important, even so because it has some influence inside the government, is the defense of replication of Asian-style export growth. Focus on manufacturing, exports, reindustrialization, exchange rate devaluation, and fiscal austerity. My point is, this second wave, despite important points raised, poses serious risks to the social improvements of the recent decade. Here, we can think freely about difficulties and risks of an export-led growth in Brazil. The size and the history. Brazil is very big in terms of population and territory, not only in the GDP. And it's difficult to try to replicate, except in the case of China, an export-led growth in a country like this. If we try to do this, not only a huge devaluation is necessary, but also reduction in wages. And to be competitive, international competitive. In addition, we have to have in mind that the world market is not so open these times, and the technology of manufacturing is not available for a country like Brazil. My point is that obviously the competitiveness and protection of the domestic market is crucial, but for a country like Brazil, this is important for balance of payments reasons. For dynamic growth, our goal, our north, is the domestic market. Well, the last slide, The rest of income transfers, minimum wage and credit, clearly had a lower space to keep the economy accelerating. It's not the model that was exhausted, but needs renovation. And my point is that we need to deepen and broaden the social policy in terms of health and education, basic sanitation, public transport, urban development, redistribution of stocks of wealth. The flows of income had a lot of progress, but probably the stocks were regressed last years. My final message is that Brazil is still a very unequal and unfair society, with a lot of difference among people in various aspects of life. So trying to reduce this distance has been and should continue to be the best economic strategy, not only a matter of justice. Thank you.
So it's also very interesting about big countries like China, Brazil, India, or other. We always said BRICS, and actually we like to make some international studies from the perspective of BRICS. One interesting point is about economic growth and income distribution. So you mentioned that in Brazil, the Gini coefficient declined gradually in recent 10 years. It seems to be your opinion, which is redistribution played a very important role. Actually, I think the growth is also a very important role. So there is an argument between the growth and the distribution, which one is most important contributor to the reduction of inequality, means Gini coefficient. So in China, we are arguing very much. So one opinion is Chinese need high growth, which is the basis for reduction of Gini coefficient. So, learn some lessons from Korea or 60 years. But others argument that we need a social progress. Social progress also played an important role. So what's your opinion? I mean, what do you think about the growth, the relationship between growth and Gini coefficient reduction?
I want to echo this point. I was listening recently to a presentation by Marcelo Neri, I think you know him, and I read half of him. I said, okay, you have three famous social interventions. You have the minimum wage, you have the Bolsa Familiar program, and you have other public social transfer programs. So, which of these programs, to what amount do they contribute to redistribution? And he gave me the figure and said 2/3, around 65% of the redistribution effect of Gini going down from 0.6 to 0.5 is due to minimum wage increase. So the key instrument he claims is minimum wage increase, which surprisingly had the effect in Brazil that it built up formal employment and not informal employment. So this I think is a key message. Our labor market is working for positive distribution impact.
Well, there is a lively debate in Brazil about the causes of this. I guess the truth is in the middle, but internally Marcelo Neri used to defend the role of social focused programs, and not so much the role of minimum wage, because the Bolsa Familiar is a typical liberal program, money to the poor, targeted to the poor. But in fact, the true story is that the growth is very important, and the minimum wage is a very powerful tool, because it represents a pattern, like a standard for all the pension system and to all the service sector, the wages are based on minimum wage. So there's a stable room for the increase of minimum wage in Brazil last years. It depends on the growth of the economy and inflation. So it's a kind of indexation of the minimum wage that is in operation in Brazil. But this discussion about the relation between distribution and growth, the fact that I put the historical background because this is a very old debate in Brazil. We had a very powerful Minister of Finance during the 70s that said we should first increase the cake and then distribute the people. Now, recent Brazilian experience showed that to growth it's better to growth based on domestic demand that was boosted by distribution effect. I have no doubt about this. Our growth was based on the domestic market that increased a lot. It's a kind of very first step towards a really domestic demand, but my point is that we should keep and preserve this context.
One question, because we are running out of time.
Несколько конкретных вопросов. Скажите, пожалуйста. Вопрос, что конкретно, какие конкретно меры были приняты по программе семейного капитала? Что конкретно давали семьям? Это первый вопрос. Второй вопрос. Скажите, пожалуйста, какие безболезненные меры были предприняты для выравнивания доходов без конфликтов с крупным капиталом? У вас это отмечено в качестве одной из позиций. И третий вопрос. Почему вы оцениваете в последние годы, тоже ответьте более конкретно, последние годы отрицательное влияние внешних спросов?
Okay, can we ask your question? I reserve my comments to the end of the discussion.
Я тогда на комментарии ставлю до конца нашего.
Question also for India isn't just an income transfer flow. There is a minimum wage, not the minimum wage, but it's just transfer of money from the state to poor people. Below certain levels, you have the right to receive from the state some amount of money. The salary paid is like an income tax.
Amounts up to some minimum level of the family, yes? So, for example, the family has the income, family income is below 2,000 euros, and the limit is 2,500. So 500 is then by the government.
Yeah, something like that. You have some requirements in terms of education. You have to put your children at the school. You have to follow the immunization program in terms of health. But it's a income complementation by the state, something like that, in a very broad with different levels. The second point, I said that there was no longer room because Brazil at the same time Lula was called the father of the poor people, but the mother of the rich, because we keep very, very high interest rates that was give rise to lots of gains in speculation in financial markets. There was no real conflict measure. For example, one dimension of distribution policy should be the tax structure. Brazilian tax burden is around 35% of GDP, it's high. 35% tax is relatively high, but very concentrated, it's very regressive. Taxes on wealth are negligible, very, very low, because most of them are regressive taxes like consumption taxes, etc. No measure in terms of taxes were terms of land reform, very low progress. So there was a very good environment that allowed to conciliate gains to the riches and to the poor also. Now some things are more improved. And I answer your question with this. Maybe the influence of the external environment, the bad external environment in the last 2 years, was more through the channel of expectations than to the channel of direct impact. Because, as I said, the external sector of Brazil is a relatively closed economy. The impact on the domestic demand was not so direct. The exports of primary commodities are important for balance of payments reasons, but it represents a small share of Brazilian demand. So the channel was expectations channel.
I missed out from one question here.
Я очень короткий вопрос, потому что я чувствую, что уже время истекает. У вас написано, что есть опасность или альтернатива возврата к либеральной модели, так сказать. И вы пишете вот в этом материале о том, что пресса на стороне меньшинства, то есть либералов. Ну это нам понятно. У меня вопрос, потому что у нас аналогичная ситуация. Но у вас, в отличие от у нас, у вас левое правительство. Так вот, делает ли что-либо левое ваше правительство для того, чтобы этот дисбаланс между мнением прессы и мнением большинства, чтобы его как-то сдвинуть? Чтобы либералы не имели большинство в прессе и в масс-медиа, как у нас это, и у вас сейчас. Спасибо.
Yes, it's a political and very delicate question. Well, this is an exposed question in Brazilian debates because the Lula's image outside Brazil is much better than inside Brazil if you read the newspapers. Because the media sector is very concentrated. 4 or 5 families, they are all radically against the government of Lula and Dilma. But no measure was taken to regulate this sector in Brazil. It's a forbidden issue in Brazilian society. Unfortunately, I guess.